Hello students, it's me, Professor Childers again. Today, I'm going to talk to you about test equipment. Test equipment is very, very important because that's what we use as electricians to make sure that the electrical circuit that we're working on is working properly. So today, I have my friend, Mr. Flute Meter. I have a non-contact voltage tester. I have a standard plug tester. And I have an old Ideal Wiggy, which I've carried for many, many years. They also call this a solenoid operated voltage tester. Now I've got a standard GFCI outlet box for a test so that I don't get hurt, which is the main important thing, is that we don't get hurt. That's why we have test equipment. Now let's start with a non-contact voltage tester. This happens to be a Greenlee. This is going to test apparent voltage. Okay, it takes a AA battery. You put it in the back end of it. You turn this on, and when you find that you have apparent voltage, oops, this will beep just like that and light up. Now, there's several versions of this. Gardner Bender makes one. Klein makes one. I think Klein's changes red and green. I believe that Harbor Freight sells a really inexpensive one. I believe that Sperry carries one and makes one. But these are small. They're pocket size. You can put them in your pocket like a marker. And they're very useful. But they will not tell you what voltage you are dealing with. They will only tell you that there is a parent power there. That means that there's voltage there. Okay? These sometimes will work on low voltage, 24 volts, things like that. They will sense power to a transformer, so if you have a wall wart, it will go off when you go near a little power transformer that's plugged into a wall. And again, they're pocket size, you know. They're inexpensive. They're probably $20, depending on where you go to get them. So next we have what we call a plug tester. And a plug tester has three lights on it. It has a red and a yellow and a yellow. And on the plug tester, if you can see it, there's a little chart that basically tells you when the lights light up, what it means. Now, this is very helpful when you're testing and troubleshooting circuits in a residential application, even in a commercial application, because this will tell you whether or not you've got a switched ground, or a switched neutral, or a switched hot, or anything like that. So what I'll do is I'll plug that in now, and we'll see it light up. And you can see that it lights up, and that it's telling me that this unit is wired correctly. Okay, that's just me not making good connection. So basically, this is pocket size. A lot of residential electricians carry this because it's very easy for troubleshooting. And again, there is a chart that's on the front of it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but all you have to do is follow the chart. Now, Klein makes these, Gardner Bender makes these, Sperry makes these, and I believe Greenlee makes these. Okay, so they're readily available at the Home Depot or your local electrical contractor supply warehouse. All right, next we have the solenoid voltage tester, or the Wiggy. Now, the Wiggy comes with a place to plug your leads in. The leads are spring-loaded, okay? And when you put them into the outlet, they will come back. If you notice, this thing rattles, okay? And it rattles for a reason, because on this you have this little slider gauge. And that little slider gauge is kind of interesting because what happens is that as the voltage is applied to this little gauge is operated by a solenoid inside. And the more voltage is applied, the more the solenoid pulls that little plunger down with that gauge marker on it, and it tells you 120 volts, it tells you 240 volts, it tells you 480 volts. Okay? Now the other thing too about some of these is that these have continuity testers built into them. So if you notice, the little light comes on when I touch the two leads together. Okay? Now, one nice thing about this is that you don't have to have two hands to operate this. You take this lead and hook it in here like this, and now you can use this as a probe along with the other probe. The other nice thing about the Wiggy is that in the event that you're working in a noisy environment and you can't hear this or you can't see it, and if you're just checking power to make sure you have power, you can actually take this and turn it upside down and put it in your pocket up near your chest, and then you can take the two leads and you can actually feel this vibrating. Okay? Now the other nice thing about this is that if your leads burn up, you just pull a plug, pick up new leads and replace them. Okay? I probably should do that on these because these have been around for a while. This is called a Wiggy because it was originally made by the Square D company, and it was invented by the Wiggins company, Wiggins. We've used these for several years. Ideal came out with one of these probably about 25 years ago, 30 years ago, and they've been going ever since. These are a little more on the expensive side. These run anywhere from about $45 to about $75 depending on what you want for bells and whistles. Okay? Alright, so that's basically all of the pocket and pouch tools that you're going to carry. Next we have our Fluke multimeter. And the multimeter is very nice because it does several things. Okay. This particular multimeter here, and I'll hold it close to the lens, has a light, okay, the hold button, and it's auto ranging. Now this particular Fluke, I picked it up about 3 years ago. I've been carrying it around in my vehicle and I use it from time to time. All you have is 3 points of contact which you need to plug your cables into, your test leads into. This is for current, okay. This is for the common wire, and this is your voltage, resistance, and continuity plug. Okay. Up here you have AC voltage. Here you have DC voltage. Here you have millivolts. Here you have resistance measured in ohms. Here you have continuity. This is for diode testing. This is for AC amperage, and this is for DC amperage. Now, they have attachments for this that you can actually put a clamp on amp meter on this, and you can have a clamp on amp meter. Also, multimeters, some of them have the capability of testing temperature. So if you want to check your temperature on your Thanksgiving turkey, you could buy that and you could put it on your really expensive multimeter. Now, depending on the manufacturer and depending on what you're going to use it for, and the features of it, you can pay anywhere from about $600 right on down to about $15 at Harbor Freight. However, Harbor Freight I wouldn't trust basically because the leads are not as heavy duty as these. Again, the leads can be replaced on all your multimeters, and every time you use your multimeter, what you want to do is inspect your leads and make sure that you don't have any cuts or dings in it. Maybe you took and threw this in the truck toolbox after your last job and maybe accidentally cut a wire or something like that on a hacksaw blade. So to measure voltage, what we're going to do is we're going to set this on AC volts, and this is auto ranging. And then what we'll do is we'll lift the cover on our test box. We'll put one lead in here, one lead in here, and if you can see this, it's reading 116.9 volts. Okay, 116.8 volts. All right. Now, that's how simple this is. Okay. If I was reading 240 volts, it would auto range to the 240 volt lead. If it were 480 volts, it would automatically go to 480 volts. Now, in the event that I want to measure resistance, then what I would do is just come down here, and on a non-powered circuit, I could put this across motor leads or motor windings to check to see what the resistance of the motor windings are, or the transformer winding, or a resistor. And when you touch them together, right now, the meter says overload, okay, OL. But when I touch them together, it should read 0.1, 0.00, okay. Now, to check continuity, let's say you're checking wires and you want to know if you've got a wire that goes from point A to point B. All you do is set this on the speaker, hit that, and if you can hear that, that's the result you get. So you get a little beeper in here, okay? Now, one thing you always want to do is you always want to turn your meter off before you store it. You want to check your leads again and make sure that they're safe, that you're not going to mess them up or cut them, okay? And then lastly, one thing to notice about this is that in the back here, you have a cover, and inside that cover you'll have a 9-volt battery, and you'll have an extra fuse. An extra fuse. What's the extra fuse for, children? Well, the extra fuse is basic and simple. This has a fuse to protect it in the event that you overvoltage it, or maybe while you're checking resistance, you've got your meter set on resistance and you accidentally touch a live circuit. So instead of the meter blowing up in your hand or in your face, what it will do is it will take out the fuse instead. So you always have an extra fuse in most of your meters, on the back of most of your meters, so you can replace those. Now, the other thing that's very important is never leave your meter in the sun or in direct sunlight, because it does have an LED display. The LED display can be messed up, okay? I had one time on a Beckman meter that I really liked, and what happened was the display turned black on me. So what I did was I came home and I put it in my freezer for a couple of hours, and fortunately it came back to life. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't work. Now, multimeters come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. I have an old Radio Shack sitting in my garage with a 2-inch display, and I bought it because it had a large display, but of course Radio Shack is no longer in business. But meters are made by Triplet, they're made by Fluke, they're made by Klein, they're made by Sperry. I believe Harbor Freight sells a couple of different kinds. You can actually go online to Amazon and find a meter that runs anywhere from about $35 to about $500. Okay? One thing you want to make sure of and be careful of is that the meter you are purchasing is going to do the job that you want it to do. That it's going to be able to take a licking. What I always tell my students is one of the best meters available for the price is made by Klein. You can pick that up at Home Depot. You can order it on Amazon. The reason why I recommend Klein is basically because of the price range and what it does. Now, the other thing too is that you will not always use your multimeter, but you will use it when you need it, you need it. Okay? So again, you don't want to spend money needlessly on a $600 meter if you're not going to use it at least twice a day. Your multimeter is your best friend. Again, you can use it to test voltage. You can set it up for inline with current. You can get a clamp-on ammeter unit as an accessory so that you've got a way to read current. You can do temperature settings, temperature readings. You can do resistance. You can do continuity. And you can do DC voltage. Now, per se, you think your car battery is going bad on you. Those little light testers that you get at the auto parts store, generally those will work, but they'll just tell you if you have power or not. Kind of like the non-contact voltage tester. The real way to test a battery is with a multimeter. Okay, so a multimeter is your best friend. You want to take care of it. I carry one in my truck. I carry one in my Jeep, only because. But that concludes our session with multimeters, and I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in.